Your body is probably the most private property that you own, and that's out the window, but so is your real property. So the commissioner may issue an order to quarantine a facility, a complex, a campus, so any premises basically. They can shut it down. Property, people, everything.
When they made preparations for mandatory vaccinations, this was done by Homeland Security with every state.
Calves are the source of smallpox vaccine. Cattle are subject to a weakened form of smallpox called cowpox. Large quantities of vaccine are produced by infecting healthy calves like this one with live cowpox virus. The virus multiplies rapidly, and by the 5th day, crusts have formed on the skin wherever the calf was infected. These crusts are collected. They contain the live germs which will serve as vaccine for human beings. Glycerin is added as a preservative and to provide a vaccine in fluid form. From this mixture, individual doses of the vaccine are prepared. The vaccine may be supplied in a capillary tube like this and applied directly to the skin from the tube.
The feds were already quietly hyping the fear in local governments in January of 2009, 4 months before the outbreaks began in Mexico. But even in Mexico, you only had a few deaths. Why was all this fear being generated by the mainstream media?
The Obama administration declared a public health emergency after 40 cases of swine flu were confirmed.
This is obviously a cause for concern and requires a heightened state of alert.
And the US has started to test a swine flu vaccine on children and adults.
There's a bit of a rush to test a new flu vaccine. Now, like you said, about 12,000 children in Oklahoma are going to be tested with this vaccine to see what the side effects are going to be. And like you said, here in the United States, we call that being a guinea pig.
They basically use the scare tactic, which I call the Chicken Little theory. The Chicken Little theory is the sky is falling. They keep saying the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And the media, which is part of the problem, because the media is basically a spokesperson for the U.S. government. It tells the people whatever they want to hear. And the government basically uses the Chicken Little theory by telling the media, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to occur, and then the people get scared.
They say 36 children have died from the virus in the United States. 7 of those children under the age of 5. The average age, 9 years old.
76 children have died from the H1N1 virus since April, including 19 in the last week alone.
We've learned that there have been 2 more H1N1 related deaths in Rhode Island.
Today's numbers are about 4 times higher than what the CDC reported just 6 days ago. The government now believes roughly 8 million children have come down with the virus. In addition to the 540 who have died, 36,000 have been hospitalized.
The Centers for Disease Control this past week quadrupled its estimated H1N1 flu virus death toll to roughly 3,900.
More than 4,000 Americans have died after coming down with H1N1.
U.S. public health officials say they are now moving forward aggressively, preparing for this flu epidemic to become much more severe.
The acting head of the CDC said he fully expects deaths from this infection.
All of the media hype and fear-mongering that we've seen worldwide associated with the pandemic of 2009-2002 with the H1N1 novel flu virus has been completely unwarranted. The regular seasonal flu kills over 36,000 people according to the CDC. There had only been a few deaths in the United States when a worldwide pandemic was announced. So you have to ask yourself, why all the hype?
We're just hearing from CDC officials. Dr. Ian Schuchat said that they are seeing a decline in the number of H1N cases on the national level.
In short, only a small fraction of cases that doctors flagged as most likely to be swine flu actually tested positive for swine flu at state labs. The vast majority of the cases were negative.
A 4-year-old Rochester boy is recovering tonight after nearly dying after being vaccinated for H1N1. Now, the Centers for Disease Control says the H1N1 vaccine, like any medicine, could cause a serious allergic reaction.
We've taken no shortcuts in terms of safety, and we're rigorously monitoring for any potential problems with the vaccine.
You know, during this H1N1, it started, that's one of the powers of the internet and information. We started finding out that around the world, we were having all kinds of problems, including, you know, almost impossible to sabotage labs that were sending out vaccines that had stuff that it wasn't even possible for them, those factories, to be able to put in there without sabotage or intent. What was the intent? We had third world countries that did the old school way. They were testing their vaccines on animals. They died. They went, whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. So, you know, we got to think, Czechoslovakia for averting a worldwide pandemic? You know, this is, all of these companies have been implicated throughout history, and if it's not the same ones, it's always a big one. It's always someone that benefits enormously from an outbreak of something. That if we can get just a few dollars from a few million people, we can start making some money. All this collectivized medicine, collectivized cures, collectivized prevention, that is the problem. It's just the mere philosophy that we can take care of the herd, and they think that way because they think of us as livestock.
A new survey shows that 1/3 of British nurses have said that they will not take the swine flu vaccine because they're worried about the possible side effects.
I know from talking to people in the research community, even scientists who helped develop the vaccine for smallpox are saying they're not going to take the vaccine and urging their friends and family not to take this vaccine either.
Now, the swine flu vaccine from back in the 1970s, which is supposed to be pretty similar to the one that's being offered today, has been linked to a neurological disorder called the Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Well, contained in the vaccine is a component called thimerosal, which has been proven, half of it is composed of mercury, and it's been proven to cause not only Guillain-Barré syndrome, but also autism in young children.
Would you give it to your kids? I definitely would not. You would not, all right? And in fairness, I've talked to 3 doctors in 3 days now, and all 3 have said absolutely they would give it to their kids, they intend to give it to their kids, they're going to take it themselves, but you say no.
I definitely would not. I've seen it devastate people with chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, highly implicated, again, in autism. I think you're rolling the dice. It's a proven neurotoxin, has 25,000 times the level of mercury than would be considered toxic if it was a food or water.
The military is expected to put together teams across the country to deal with a possible outbreak this fall. Did you hear that, Jessica? The military. I mean, they have some serious concerns about what's going to happen in the fall with this flu.
Yep.
Because we'll have 2 flus at once, obviously, regular old every year flu, and then this, pig flu.
Then H1N1.
Yeah, in case the government asks FEMA for help, the government will be ready there with the military. We're told it's as health officials race to get vaccines ready.
We are suffering the exact amount of tyranny that we're allowing. The only way that we're really going to be free is when we evolve past the need and the emotional dependence on any government.
The United Nations bragged that the H1N1 flu pandemic was a great drill, a global exercise preparing the planet to go under United Nations control, and that all the major signatories to the World Health Organization agreements on flu pandemic were now under UN control. That's one of the main reasons that we see this being carried out. It's all a globalization, federalization drill to train everyone to waive their rights and waive their liberties so that we can all be protected from this public health menace.
I go down to my local Walmart and they have a clinic in there, and you walk in and there's people lined up around, standing outside, waiting to get their vaccine. Do they know what's in that vaccine? No. Do they know that they need it? No. They're just being told that they need to go get it because they could get sick and die. So they load up the family and they run down to the local clinic and everybody gets their vaccine.
I've heard rumors about Walmart being used because Walmart has all the clothes, all the food. Every Walmart you go into is a, million square foot building and would be very convenient for sheltering people. It's like, okay, it's raining. Everybody run inside Walmart so that you can keep dry. And then once you get in, you slam the gates closed. Now everybody's locked inside.
Walmart is the largest company in the United States and in the world, I believe. With the system of semi-tractor trailers and warehouses that they have. There are stores in basically every community of the United States. They have an existing infrastructure that can move a lot of property, stuff, whether it be food, water, medical supplies, ammunition. That infrastructure can move literally hundreds of tons of food and ammunition and medical supplies very efficiently and very quickly.
But it's not just preachers and the InfraGard executives that have been recruited to help carry out this tyranny. They are now getting Walmart involved. In fact, for several years, Walmart has taken part in mass drills where locals simulate coming to the Walmart parking lot where they're given a jelly bean as a symbol of their forced inoculation.
Well, I can't address the FEMA camps, but I can address something very closely related, and that is the restriction of travel. And in my research, which really began with looking into toll transponders being used on cars and has now expanded into looking at how tolls are being very specifically used together with information or with planning for a potential epidemic to actually create choke points, to create borders of states where there would literally be no leaving a state. A state could be locked down, where we may actually be moving to a plan in the future where crossing the border from, say, New Hampshire into Massachusetts would be akin today to crossing the border from America to Canada. So that's really what has me very concerned. You don't really need to round people up in FEMA camps if you can simply lock them down. I'll give you one example. The city of Cambridge, I recently interviewed on my radio program a city council member from Cambridge who had given back money that was used to install video cameras, federal money for video cameras, at all the points of egress from Cambridge. And she said, why do we need this? And the answer was, well, in the event that we have to shut Cambridge down and keep people in, we need to know what the routes are out of the city so we can set up checkpoints and prevent people from leaving.
You know, if I have the United States government telling me that there's an enormous threat, either a bacterial, alien invasion from Alpha-Centauri, whatever, that there is war, imminent war, missiles coming, details at 11, and they are going to use anything they can to put me into a state of mind that I am willing to go to some camp, that I'm willing to be relocated, that I'm willing to be taken from my home forcibly, then they're the bad guy.
It's very important to understand that when you see Barack Obama or Merkel of Germany or Brown of Britain come out and announce that their countries are under an emergency, that is done in accordance with the United Nations. And that's done so executive orders signed by all of these countries can be activated, which supersede the rights and liberties of the people and allow quarantine, forced inoculation, mass arrest, lockdown of cities. Even states have passed laws to mirror the federal and international. Texas passed a law that during an emergency they can lock you up, make you wear a bracelet, make you go to a FEMA camp. We know through the clergy response teams, they're training pastors all over the nation to tell their flocks to take the inoculations, to go to the relocation centers.
Well, what's the difference? What's the difference between Bush and Obama? Every wrong thing that Bush was doing, Obama has taken it to the 10th power and has accelerated it and made it worse. Was Bush a socialist? Absolutely. Was Bush a good president? Absolutely not. Did he do things contrary to the Constitution? Absolutely. Did he get us involved in foreign wars that we should not be involved in? Yes. Was he willing to compromise our freedom and security and safety for his own political patty caking? Yes.
When the World Health Organization declares a level 6 pandemic, then all of the other mechanisms engage at the national, state, and local level. There are plans through the World Health Organization at the local level that require level 6 before some of the more draconian methods can be implemented.
Mandatory flu vaccinations, or mandatory quarantines, mark a pivotal role in this nation's fight against civil injustice. If a person truly has control over their own body, then how can any government force them to be inoculated against their will? With a simple declaration of a national emergency, the Constitution can be suspended indefinitely.
I work over in this area, and
it's an industrial park, so there's not many people around. One day I'm driving around and I see, hundreds of people walking down the sides of the road, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. Well, I ran into a police officer, and he